Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, What's New with Memo Manager? Hi, I'm Judy Howard, and I'm with ARC's Business Operations and Customer Experience. And today, I have our experts here with us. I have the product manager of Memo Manager, and that's Sarah Sager. And also, I have our senior instructional designer and trainer, Daryl Scott, who are going to be giving the presentation today and will be able to answer any of your questions. And to do that, go to the right side of your screen and just type in your questions, because everyone will be muted today. We'll get to as many of those questions as we can. The ones that we don't get to, and I'll repeat this too throughout the session, but Sarah is going to take those back. She's going to do a general Q&A to answer all those questions, and we will get that posted up on the website. Before we get started, I will just say this session is being recorded, and we will post it to our website next week, and it will be under training, and then if you go to the right-hand side, webinars on demand, where we have all of our recorded webinars stored. So, but without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Daryl and Sarah to get this presentation started.
All right, thank you, Judy, and welcome everyone to the ARC Memo Manager webinar. As many of you may have heard, ARC Memo Manager is getting a facelift, and you guys are going to be the first to see it. So in this webinar, you're going to learn about what is ARC Memo Manager if you're not already familiar with it. You're going to get a first-hand look at the new ARC Memo Manager interface. You're going to learn about key ARC Memo Manager functionality, and then lastly, learn of best practices for working debit memos. So what is ARC Memo Manager? Well, ARC Memo Manager, also known as Memo Manager for short, is a web-based product that facilitates and automates the distribution, processing, and settlement of adjustment memos between you, the airlines, and ARC accredited agencies. Basically, when you issue your adjustment memos, you load them into a centralized location, a web-based application that's accessible to our ARC accredited agencies. So some of the key features of ARC Memo Manager is that, number one, you are able to electronically issue memos, have them loaded into ARC Memo Manager so that the agents can access it. You're able to correspond on a memo. So when you're issuing memos and you need to send an agent a message regarding the memo, you can add correspondence. And vice versa, the agent, they're able to send you messages or add correspondence to a specific memos, and you can do correspondence in real time. You're also able to work disputes. So if they dispute a memo, you will receive that dispute in real time through Memo Manager, and you're able to take action. You could accept the dispute, reject the dispute, also add correspondence in regards to the dispute, and then also make adjustments to a memo. You may, increase the amount of a memo or decrease the amount of memo. You may close the memo out on your end, so you're able to make adjustments through Memo Manager on a memo. Now, some of the benefits of Memo Manager, again, the memos are issued electronically, which reduces processing time and cost. You have easy access to your data, so the memos are stored, in a centralized location, Memo Manager, and you have access to those memos. You're able to see the status of a memo, so you know if a memo has been closed, if you're waiting for an agent to take action on a memo, if a memo is currently in dispute pending. Payments are done electronically, so when they pay a memo, it's done through Memo Manager. That memo is then loaded into the agent's IR sales report, and once they submit their sales report, that memo is considered settled or closed. And also it simplifies communications. Again, through Memo Manager, you're able to communicate with the agent on a memo. And Memo Manager stores up to 39 months worth of data, so you're able to go back and retrieve previously issued memos. Now, the primary users of Memo Manager, of course, is you, the airlines, ARC accredited agencies, as well as the GDSs. With Memo Manager, you and the agent are able to give a GDS access to a specific memo if the GDS needs to do research on the memo that was issued. Now, on February 13th, Memo Manager is going to see a facelift. Basically, it's moving to a new platform, which is going to take advantage of enhanced technology. It's going to have a new look and feel. With the new look of Memo Manager, it's going to incorporate a lot of ARC's branding, our color schemes. The navigation is going to be a little bit easier. You're going to have different navigation buttons that are easier to use. And just scrolling through Memo Manager is going to be a little bit easier. The good news, even though we are moving to a new functionality, a new platform, the functionality is going to remain the same. Nothing is going to change as far as functionality. What you can do in Memo Manager today, you will be able to do once we move to the new platform. The reason we are, moving to a new platform is, we want to take advantage of enhanced technology to make your experience better, and also performance-wise to improve the performance of Memo Manager. So let's take a look. I'm actually going to go into Memo Manager, into our test environment, so that you can see it, and then we're going to walk through some of the key functionalities of Memo Manager. So I'm going to log in Memo Manager through my ARC.
And just a reminder, everyone on the phone, while Daryl's getting into Memo Manager, is you can ask your questions on the right-hand side. Just type those in. Okay, thank you.
So here I'm logged into Memo Manager. So this is the new look and feel of the Memo Manager. It looks familiar. Again, we are, taking advantage of, our ARC's corporate branding, our color schemes. You'll see different navigation buttons that will make it easier for you to navigate within the application. Scrolling within Memo Manager is a little bit easier, more efficient. But again, the functionality remains the same. It's just a facelift. So I'm going to walk through some of the key functionalities that you as an airline would use when working in Memo Manager. So we're on the memo summary page, which is going to list all of the memos that you have issued. Your memos are going to be listed by ARC numbers. So the ARC number that you issued the memo to, the agency name, your 3-digit carrier code, your carrier name, the memo number, memo type, such as debit memo, credit memo, recall commission statement, the current balance of the memo, the secondary status of the memo, such as payment pending, agent action required, dispute pending, new memo. It's going to have the age of the memo, so you'll know how old the memo is, the resolution type, whether it's by carrier, which is the most common resolution type, TRS, ticket resolution service. And also, it's going to have the last correspondence, who made the last correspondence on the memo. Was you the airline or the agency? Now, your memos are going to be categorized into 4 different tabs: open, closed, inactive, and all. Your open tab is basically your primary status, and it's going to display all memos that are open. So this is the tab that your primary will be working from. Next one is your closed tab, which is another primary status, which is going to show all the memos that have been closed. They could have been closed because the agency paid the memo, or you may have made an adjustment and closed the memo on your end. Next, the inactive tab, which is a primary status. it's going to show memos that are currently inactive. When you issue a memo, you set an age limit to a memo, meaning that after the age limit has passed and if no action has been taken on the memo then rolls into an inactive status. And the last, we have our All tab, which is going to display a combination of both your open, closed, and inactive memos. Now, depending on your role at your airline or the memos that you need to work on or view, you may not need to see all the memos that have been issued by your airline. So Memo Manager allows you to perform different search criteria, so you're able to pull up and work on the memos that you need to view. One of the search options that is available to you is the quick view option. The quick view option lets you pull up memos by memo number or by the memo that you last viewed or worked on. So if I wanted to pull up a memo that I last worked on the Memo Last View link, I would just click that link, and Memo Manager will take me into the memo that I last viewed. To go back to the memo summary page, I would just click the memo summary link, and that brings me back to the memo summary page. Excuse me. If you want to do a search by memo number, under the memo numbers link, just click that link. A memo quick view window will appear, and then you could type in the memo number that you want to display. And you could do a search up to 50 memos. Just type in the memo number and separate each number by a comma, and then Memo Manager will take you into the first memo. And see, like I entered the wrong memo, so let me try that again. I'm going to click View, and then Memo Manager takes me into the memo that I just did a search on by the memo number. So I'm going to return back to the memo summary page. You can also do a search by ARC number. So if there's a specific agency location that you want to view the memos for, excuse me, type in the ARC number of that agency in the ARC number text box. And then you have the option to type in a single location, or if you want to include the agency's entire organization, click the Include Entire Organization button, and then click the Search button. And then Memo Manager will display all memos for that agency location. Now, Memo Manager, initially I want to take out this ARC number first, just to go back to my default settings. Now, below the ARC number search, there is a dashboard that's divided into two parts. Over on the right, you have Memo Agent, and over on the left, you have Memo Activity. The Memo Agent section is going to categorize each memo by the age range in which they fall in. So the age ranges that you have are 91 plus days, 61 to 90 days, 31 to 60 days, and 0 to 30 days. For each age range, it's going to have the number of open memos and the current balance. So for example, for the age range 91 plus days, I have 6 open memos with a current balance of $1,040.60. To display the number of memos within an age range, just click the age range link, and I'll do 91 plus days. And then below, Memo Manager will display or list the memos that fall within that age range that I selected. And then you'll notice under the search area, there is a description box that describes the search that I just performed. So here I have age 91 plus days. Now to go back to my default settings, I can click the clear button, the clear link, or within my description box, I can click the delete icon. Now over to the right, we have memo activity, which is going to categorize your memos by the activities that they fall in. And the different activities are correspondence within the last 10 days, memos that are currently disputed, memos that are nearly aged, meaning that they're reaching their age limit and are about to fall into an inactive status, and lastly, memos with a payment pending, meaning that the memos were paid in Memo Manager sent to the agent's IR sales report. However, the memo's in a pending status until the agent actually submits the IR sales report. Now, for each activity, it's going to provide you with the number of open memos, the current balance of the memo. So, for example, correspondence in the last 10 days, I have 4 open memos with a current balance of $1,090.60. Now, going back to the memo agent section, again, I indicate that it categorizes your memos by their age range. This is a good tool to use to work the memos that are the oldest. So if you have memos that fall within 91 plus days, and you see I have 6 open memos, I probably would want to work these memos first to see what's going on with these memos and what's the status with the agent. So it gives you a good opportunity to work your oldest memos first. Now below the dashboard is our search area, and here you're able to do a search. You're able to do a specific search by using different search criteria or queries. To do that, just click the Edit Search, and the Edit Search window will appear. And these are the different categories that you can use to do your search. For example, if I do a search by agency name, I'm going to type in ARC Travel. And then if I click the Update Results button, Memo Manager will then display all memos that were issued to ARC Travel. And under my search description box, you'll see I have agency name, ARC Travel. So let's close that out. I'm going to go back in there. Now let's say there's a search that I perform on a daily basis. What I could do instead of each time going in Memo Manager, I can actually save that search so I could automatically go in and pull up that query. So using the same example that I've done before by agency name, but do a search for ARC Travel, and if I want to save this search, I'm just going to click Save this search. A Save Current Search window will appear, and I'll be prompted to name this search. So I'm going to go ahead and name it. Say ARC Travel DS. And I can also have the option to make this my default search, meaning that each time I launch Memo Manager, this search will automatically run. Then to do so, just click the Run Search on Login, and then click Save. So this has been saved. I'm going to close this window out, and then I'm going to go to my Saved Searches by clicking the Save Searches link. A Save Search window appears, and it provides me a list of all of my saved searches. And the last one that I just saved, ARC Travel-DS, is listed below. So if I want to run this search, I can just double click, and then that search will then execute, and you'll see all memos issued to ARC Travel is listed below. So I'm going to go close this out, go back to my default settings, and I had made that search my default. So if I close out Memo Manager.
Hey, Daryl, we did get a question in, seeing you're in search. The question is, where do we find paid memos in the last 14 days? If you could just address that when you get there.
So I closed out Memo Manager, and if I go back in, Memo Manager would run the save search that I made as my default, ARC Travel DS, and you'll see the results are listed below. Sorry, go on, Judy. Judy, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, Daryl, there is. And sorry to interrupt you earlier, but I think it applies to the search. It says, where do we find the paid memos in the last 14 days?
The paid memos within the last 7 to 14 days?
Yeah, and probably beyond that. So by 7, 14, and then, subsequent time. Yeah.
So it wouldn't specifically, provide you this is not a specific query for the last paid by the last 7, 14 days. What you could do is actually use the IR settle date and then provide a date range. So under the IR settle date, you will provide a beginning range and an ending range. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and if that doesn't answer for the person that asked that, just write that back in if you have another question in regard to that, or if we didn't answer it. So thanks, Daryl.
Yes. All right, so those are your searches. So I'm going to go back down using the results for agency name ARC Travel. I'm going to go back to our list of memos. So from your list of memos, you do have a number of options that are available to you by selecting different memos. And then under the Select Actions drop-down menu, you're able to view, export, correspond, close, and resolve disputes. So let's say I want to export my list of memos. So I've selected my memos. I'm going to select Export. And then you have the option to export into a CSV, PDF, or text format. So say I want to export into a CSV format. So I'm going to select CSV and then click Export. And then if I go to my Downloads folder, here is the export in a CSV format. When exporting, all the data that's associated with the memo will be provided. And when you're exporting, you're able to save the format to your computer, to a network. You're able to email it. If you're exporting into a CSV format, you're able to sort, and you can also save it into an Excel format. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Close this. Let's say if I have, some memos in a dispute pending, and if I want to take action on them, so let's see, there's one. So I'm going to select the memos with a dispute pending, and then under select actions, I'm going to select resolve disputes. So a resolve disputes window will appear. It's going to provide me with the number of memos that are selected, 2, the number of valid memos, which is 2, and then the dispute resolution is either going to be accept or reject, and then you can add your comments. So I'm going to accept these disputes, and then I'm going to be required to add a comment. And I'm going to select the Resolve Disputes button. And then I get a summary indicating that my disputes have been resolved. So I'm going to close that out. From your list of memos, you are able to view memos, a group of memos, by selecting the memos that you want to view. And then under the Select Actions drop-down menu, select View. And then Memo Manager will take you into the first memo that you viewed, that you identified. To move to the next memo, just click the next link, and then that will take you to the next memo. And to return to the memo summary page, just click the memo summary link. Now you can also view a memo by selecting or clicking the memo number link. And that will take you into the memo as well. Now, when you go into a memo, basically you're going into the memo details page, and this page is going to provide you with all the details surrounding the memo. So first you're going to see the memo number. To the right of the memo number, to the far right, you'll have an Adjust button, a Close Memo button, Print Details, Export History, and the Create Memo button. Below the memo number is the General Information section, which is going to have the memo type, such as debit memo, the original amount that the memo was issued for, the balance of the memo. So the balance may be different from the original amount if the agent made a partial payment. It's also going to have your carrier 3-digit code and a link to your ticketing policy website. It's going to have the agency name and ARC number at which the memo was issued. It's going to have the date when the balance was last updated. It's going to have the passenger name of the associated ticket that's in question. If this memo was issued by a supplier, it would have the supplier 3-digit code. If it was an airline, then the airline 3-digit code. And then it's going to have the age of the memo. Below, you're going to have the memo details. And the first section of the memo details is status. So you're going to have the date of issue, when the memo was issued, the load date, when the memo was loaded into Memo Manager, and the IER settle date. That's the date that the memo was actually settled in IER. When they pay a memo through Memo Manager, that memo loads into the agent's IER sales report. It's initially in a payment pending status, and then once they actually submit their sales report, that memo is considered settled. So you would have the settled date. Next, you have the status of the memo. You'll have the primary status and a secondary status. So in this example, the primary status is open, and the secondary status is dispute pending. Next, you're going to have the last modification date, the date when the last changes were made. If this memo was inactive and then was reactivated by you, it's going to have the reactivated date. And there's also, next we'll have the resolution type, whether it's a a carrier resolution, MRS, TPRS, or TRS. Now, if it's a TRS resolution type, it's going to specify what the TRS reason is, the ticket resolution service is. If it's an expired credit card, invalid credit card number, invalid no approval code, unauthorized use, fraudulent unauthorized use, flown and refunded, and unreported sales. Now, for the resolution type to be TRS, TPRS, or MRS, your airline will have to be a subscriber of that service. Next, we have the ticketing information of the ticket that's in question. So it's going to have the carrier code, the actual ticket number, the system provider, such as Apollo, the ticket amount, the date of issue, passenger name, and also the employee ID or product category. Below to the left, we have our correspondence. So here you're able to retrieve any correspondence that was sent to you, whether it was a public correspondence or a private correspondence, and you're also able to send correspondence to the agency or internally within your organization. So the public tab is going to display all public correspondence, so that's correspondence between you and the agency. The private tab is going to display correspondence that was made internally within your organization, so the agency will not be able to view this. And then the All tab will display a combination of both public and private correspondence. To add a correspondence, just click the Add to Correspondence link. A correspondence window will appear, and you could type in your message. To make this a public correspondence, just go ahead and click Add to Correspondence, and then that message will be displayed under the Public tab with a date and time stamp, the user who submitted the correspondence, and then your 3-digit carrier code. If you want to send a correspondence internally within your organization, just click the Add to Correspondence link, type in your message, and then check the Make this correspondence private button, the checkbox, and click to Add to Correspondence. And if you go to the Private tab, the message that I just sent, "Sir, please contact the agency," is listed, and this message can only be viewed internally within my airline, so the agency will not be able to view this. Over to the right, we have Memo Reason, and the Memo Reason actually identifies why you issued the debit memo. You're going to have the reason category, and in this example, the reason category is for a chargeback, and the memo reason is unauthorized fraudulent use. Now, if you're not familiar with the reason category and memo reasons, you could click the reasons definitions, and this will pull up a PDF of the definition. Next, we have attachments. Here, you're able to view any attachments that was loaded to the memo, whether it was loaded by you or the agency, as well as the GDS that they have access to the memo. To add attachments, just click the Add File, and then search for your attachment that you want to load. And the file that I just tried to load was too large, so you'll see I got a message, file size greater than 10 megabytes is not acceptable. So you want to make sure that any files that you do attach, that is 10 megabytes, the size is 10 megabytes or less. But any attachments that you upload the agency will be able to view, as well as the GDS that they have access to. Next, we have the memo financial details. So here is where you're actually providing, giving the agency a financial view as far as why the memo was issued. And basically, it's because there's a discrepancy in how the ticket was issued. So you're going to provide the carrier computation on how the ticket should have been issued, and then you're going to provide the agent computation on how the agent actually issued the ticket, and then the difference will actually be the memo amount. So you'll see in this example, the carrier computation, the total amount of the ticket should have been $340. The agent computation is 0, which is a difference of $340.60, which is the amount of the memo. Next, we have our disputes area. Here, it's going to provide you with a history of any disputes that was made to the memo by the agency, and here is where you'll actually take action, whether you're going to accept or reject the dispute. So let's see, I have a dispute that was made on on the 29th, that was yesterday, for $75. The user who submitted the dispute, and the status is in a pending status. So I have the option to accept the dispute or reject the dispute by clicking the links. So let's say I want to reject this dispute. I'll click reject. A reject dispute window will appear. I'll type in a message. Click submit. And then on the agent's end, they would indicate that the dispute was rejected, and then they will be required to take some sort of option if they're going to go ahead and pay the memo or submit another dispute. Next, we have entity-specific information, also known as flex fields. And these are pretty much data fields that you can use at your own discretion that's only viewable to your airline. So they're not viewable by the agency or the GDS. And basically, they're kind of like say that 6 data fields that you could add notes to, in which you could run queries on. And to add update your data fields, I'm just going to click update flex fields, and then I could add my notes. And so the data that I just entered, dispute rejected on January 30th, and I can actually use this to run a query or to pull up this memo if I'm doing a search. Next, we have payments, the payment section, which comprises of IAR and non-IAR payments. So under IAR, it's going to have a history of the payments that were submitted to IAR or paid directly in Memo Manager and then went to the agent's IAR sales report. It's going to have the date that the memo was paid or submitted, the user who made the submission, the amount, the IAR transaction number, and you'll see this is blank because I'm in a test environment, status, and it says failed because I'm in an IAR test environment, but initially it would be pending if I'm waiting for the agent to submit my IAR sales report. Once they submit their sales report, it will have the IAR settled date and the settled amount. Now, all payments are encouraged to be done through Memo Manager so that they're loaded into the IR sales report. However, agents do have the option to submit payment directly to you. If they do submit payment directly to you, we ask them that they record that payment in Memo Manager in the non-IR payment section so that there is a record of that payment is being made. And if you click the record payment link, if the payment was made, it will provide an audit of the non-IR payment that was received by you. And then also on your end, if you receive payments, directly from the agent and they did not record the non-IR payment, you could go ahead and record it for them. So under the record non-IR payment window, it's going to provide the current balance of the memo, and then you could type in the balance that was received. The payer who made it, the payment number, which would be check number, form of payment, we'll select check, and then click submit. So this way you have a record, there is a record in Memo Manager that payment was made. Now as an airline or an agency, both of you are able to give a GDS access to a memo if they need to do research to support a memo, or on the agency side, if a memo is being disputed. So to give access to a memo under the GDS access section, you would just select the GDS that you want to provide access to. And in this case, the agent already provided access to a GDS to Apollo. So Apollo actually has access to this memo, and they're able to view this memo. They're able to add correspondence and attachments. Now, they're not able to pay the memo in Memo Manager for the agency, nor are they able to dispute the memo for the agency. Now, if the GDS wants to send payment to the agent, the GDS could do so, but it would be done outside of Memo Manager. And again, it would be the responsibility of the agent to actually make the payment themselves directly in Memo Manager. And then lastly, we have our carrier supplier information, which is going to have your contact information. It's going to have your carrier name, 3-digit carrier code, your ticketing policy website, as well as your address. It may also include a contact person and the phone number and email address. So Judy, before we move on, are there any questions?
There is one. Yeah, there is, Daryl. There's quite a few questions, actually, and I have Sarah here that we've been trying to answer some of these individually, but Sarah, there's one that you have here that you'd like to ask.
Yes. Go back up. Sorry, we're looking, it was a payment question.
Okay. And thank you, everyone that's been giving us questions here, because there are a lot of good ones, and some of them we were able to put in our backlog, which is awesome. So Sarah has one here where it is, where can we see that the memo was paid by the travel agent? Mm-hmm. Daryl, can you help with that?
Right, so that would be listed under your payment section, IR payments. And so here in this example, you'll see payment was submitted on September 11th, 2019. It has the username, the amount. In a test environment, however, if I was in production, it would have the IR transaction number, the status of that payment, the IR settle date, and the settled amount. So it's going to be under the IR payment section.
Thanks, Daryl. There's another one too where we've had several questions that have come in, and it is about using, one of them is there a wildcard symbol? And if you don't know the full name of an agency, is there like an asterisk or something that shows up for the wildcard?
And I'm going to look towards Sarah because I thought I've never used it before, but I'm pretty sure there is, and I can't remember the symbol. May need to take that offline to do some research, but.
Okay, that's fair. Because there's several questions here about looking up agency name using the wildcard. And I don't have access to Memo Manager right now to look, but we'll certainly take that offline and get you answers.
Great. Yeah, and again, just a reminder for all the questions here, there will be a general Q&A that Sarah will be working on for this, and we'll post it. So thank you, and again, keep asking the questions, because if we don't get to them on this session, we will certainly get them answered. Thanks, Daryl.
All right. So I'm going to close out of this memo, return to a memo summary page, and I'm going to actually select a new memo, another memo. Here. So I'm in a new memo, and the balance of this memo is $450. As an airline, you are able to make adjustments to this amount. So you're able to increase the amount. You're able to decrease the amount as you see fit if needed. So to make an adjustment, just click the Adjust button. An Adjust Balance window will appear. You'll see the new balance. It says $450. So you could change the balance to, so I could change it to $300, or I could, let me take that, I could decrease it by decrease the balance by a specific amount. So let's say I want to decrease it by $50 to make it $400. Or I could increase the amount, so I increase the balance by $50 to make it $500. So you are able to, as long as the memo is open, you are able to adjust the balance. And what I mean memo is open, that the primary status is open. So I'm going to actually take this out. Actually, I'm going to decrease the amount by $50 to make it $400. Click. I'm going to type in test in the comments. Click submit. And then once I click submit, the memo was updated successfully. And you'll see that the new balance is $400. So you'll see the original amount was $450, and the new balance is now $400. You also are able to close the memo on your end. So if for some reason, if you think the memo you came to some sort of agreement with the agency and you want to close the memo, you could go ahead and do so. To close the memo, just click the Close Memo button. And then the close memo window will appear, and you'll just click yes to confirm. And once you confirm, you'll see the balance has changed to 0. And then if we go down to the status area, the status is now closed by carrier. So you are able to close the memo on your end. And then I'm just going to go over one last functionality, and that's creating a memo. Now, depending on your airline, you may actually send ARC a file of your memos to be loaded in Memo Manager, or you can actually enter memos directly into Memo Manager. To enter memos directly in into Memo Manager, just click the Create Memo button. A Create Memo window will appear. Under the memo details section, you'll be required to enter the memo number. So I'm going to enter a memo number. enter the amount, say let's say $200. The date of issue is going to be today. I'm going to enter the passenger name of the associated ticket. By default, it's going to have my airline code. I'm going to enter the ARC number. And then I want to provide the ticket details of the ticket in question under ticket information. So I'm going to add the ticket. So I'm going to select my carrier code. I'm going to enter the ticket number. The ticket amount. The issue date. I'm going to enter the passenger name. And the employee ID, I'm just going to enter a random number. Product category, I'm going to leave that blank. I'm going to go ahead and add this ticket. Next, I'm going to be required to provide the memo reason. So first, under reason category, I have to select a reason category. I'm going to say this was a chargeback. And then under memo reason, select a memo reason. And I'm going to say that the refund was not received. And the reason note, I'm going to add a note. Passenger requested a refund, but it was not processed. And then under attachments, if you have any supporting documents, you could go ahead and upload those. Under memo financial details, here you will provide give a financial description on why the memo was issued. So basically, you're going to provide the carrier computation of the ticket and the agent computation. So I'm going to click Edit Financial Details on the carrier side. The fare should have been $150. Total taxes, $50. No commission, no service charge or penalty or other fees. On the agent side, I'm going to leave this blank or all zeros because it was a chargeback and the ticket was never processed. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this. So the difference between the carrier computation and the agent computation is $200, and that is the reason. And that is the memo number. Under entity-specific information, I could add data to this memo, but I'm going to go ahead and leave this blank. And if I want to give GDS access to this memo, I could select the GDS that I want to provide access to, but I'm not, so I'm going to leave that blank. And I'm going to go ahead and load this memo by clicking the Load Memos button. And the memo was successfully saved. So the agent will see this memo on their end. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And so that is a high-level walkthrough of Memo Manager. So I'm going to return back to the presentation. So best practices for working debit memos. The debit memo working group, which consists of ARC, our airline participants, ARC accredited agencies, GDS, as well as some of our industry partners, is a group with a goal to kind of understand, why debit memos are issued, to see what we could do to educate the industry on the reason why debit memos are issued, and also what we could do to reduce the issuance of debit memos. And one of the things that the Debit Memo Working Group came up with is a list of best practices for effective debit memo resolution and prevention. And these are kind of guidelines that were identified by this group for airlines, agents, and GDSs to practice. So for this slide, best practices for working debit memos, I just took out some different snippets to identify some of the things that you should do when you're working existing debit memos. One of the things, ARC Memo Manager, all memos should electronically be issued through ARC Memo Manager. This way they are loaded in a centralized location that you have access to, as well as the agency has access to. Also use Memo Manager to work in a disputes communication. So if you receive a dispute on a memo, use Memo Manager to resolve that dispute, as well as add any correspondence for that dispute. Next, we have response timing. If you receive a dispute, respond to dispute within 30 calendar days of the receipt of that dispute. Disputes, as an airline, you can set the limit on how many times an agency can dispute a specific memo. Best practices is to limit the dispute number to 3. So the agent should be able to dispute the memo 3 times. If you're going to reject a dispute, provide clear and concise reason to why the dispute is being made. That the dispute is being rejected. So you want to make sure that the agency understands why the dispute is being rejected. Payments. If there is an agreement to adjust a debit memo, update Memo Manager with the adjustment in amount within 2 business days. If a payment plan has been agreed upon, a document that records that agreement in Memo Manager so that there is a record, of that agreement. And lastly, closing memos. Close memos in Memo Manager 14 calendar days after receiving payment. When fully closing a memo, provide an explanation of why the debit memo is being closed. So these are some best practices for working existing memos. I do encourage when this presentation is sent out, Judy is also going to include the entire document, best practices for effective debit memo resolution and prevention. And I do encourage that you review that document so you were able to efficiently issue and work debit memos, and also learn and understand the best practices that was identified for agencies as well as the GDSs. I have to say the Debit Memo Working Group did an excellent job on identifying these best practices. So for those of you part of the Debit Memo Working Group that are on this call, thank you for putting together such a great document, and also thank you for all the hard work that you're doing and working with debit memos and trying to educate the industry. So this concludes this presentation. So I'm going to turn it back over to Judy, who may have some questions to answer.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions here, Daryl, and we only have 2 minutes on this. Maybe let me see if I can just find a couple, but I do want to let everybody know that this recorded session will again be posted on our corp.com website. Go to training and then go to the right-hand side for webinars on demand, and it will be posted there, but it'll probably take a week. We have to go through a marketing department, and then they'll put it up there. The other thing is, for all the questions that don't get answered, Sarah is going to work hard on putting together a question and answer document that will cover all these, and the ones that it won't cover, she'll reach out directly, because I know that there's a lot of questions here, and we thank you all very much for those questions, and to be respectful of everyone's time, we'll probably conclude this. Sarah, I want to make sure if you have anything to say here to let everyone know.
I want to thank everybody for sitting in on the demo. We are very excited about this new platform. It looks good. I love it because there's a lot of white space and it's a lot clearer. We're excited to get it rolled out and expect it to be available next Thursday morning when you log in.
Great. So it will go into production and be implemented next Thursday on the 13th.
Yes.
Very good. And I just also want to say that
yes.
In 2 weeks.
You said to next Thursday.
Oh, I said next Thursday.
No,
2 weeks.
the 13th.
She said next Thursday. 2 weeks. Thanks, Daryl. The other thing is the airline help desk. You all should have that number, which is 800-855-816-8007. Or I think if that 800 number doesn't work, it would be 703-816-8007. So always feel free to contact our airline help desk. And we, again, really appreciate all your time. If there's other webinars you want to hear about this year, you can send me an email at jhoward@artcorp.com. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world today. Thank you, Daryl and Sarah. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.